Hello, hello, hello. It's Ash Teeter here with Lost Coast Populist, hosting the Reading Between the Headlines news review. And today we're talking a little bit about the carbon cars and California's war on auto autonomy. So go through this little article I put together. It's kind of like a response article to something put out by the Lost Coast Outpost, their eco news report, and we'll take a look at that later. But one of the big things I noticed in this eco news report was that they vilified cars, especially big trucks. Just I called them evil, said they're out to get people, stuff like that. So we'll just read through this real quick, and then we'll move on to the rest of these relating articles. But carbon cars. So in a recent eco news report from the Lost Coast Outpost, the spotlight fell on Sacramento's ambitious climate policies and their implications. But Governor Gavin Newsom on September 23rd, 2020, declared an aggressive shift away from fossil fuels, aiming to mandate the sale of zero-emission passenger vehicles by 2035. The Eco News report and audio presentation discussed the same climate narrative, asking, what has Sacramento done for us lately? So that's pretty much what they're asking in this, but they're going a little bit far in vilifying our four-wheeled friends here. It says the article persistently castigates cars, labeling them as oversized automobiles and fixating on traffic safety concerns. Not to say that traffic safety isn't important, particularly pedestrian fatalities. But this hostile anti-large vehicle propaganda is a world apart from the truth the people around the world are preaching with their pocketbooks. Buyers worldwide go for bigger cars, erasing gains from the cleaner tech, says the new report from the Global Fuel Economy Initiative. Smaller vehicles, or sedans, have lost a lot of ground in the U.S. market over the past decade. In 2012, sedans accounted for 50% of the U.S. auto retailing space, with SUVs at just over 30% and trucks at 13.5%. According to car buying resource Edmunds, by 2022, U.S. sedan share dropped to 21%, while the SUV hit 54.5% and trucks grew to 20%. People don't want to be limited in their space in their car, says Eric Frechet, president of the Tamarav Group of dealerships in the Southeast Michigan. Everyone wants 7 passengers. I mean, not everyone, but a lot of people, I guess, Anyways, let's see here. What else do we got? We got good old Greta here. So that the Eco News report repeats popular climate fear propaganda, stressing that our 412 part per million of CO2 should be nearer to 350 parts per million to avoid a dystopian future like one Greta Thunberg has prognosticated. And there's a quote from old Greta. It says, or young Greta, I should say, I don't want you to be hopeful. I want you to panic. So yes, we all know that the best decisions are made when you're panicking. So exactly. Yet the numbers alone don't capture the full historical context. CO2 levels have fluctuated significantly throughout Earth's existence, from the Cambrian period of 4,000 ppm to the Quaternary glaciations of 180 ppm. Historical CO2 concentrations have seen dramatic shifts. Moreover, plants thrive on CO2, raising questions about the real motive behind certain initiatives like Bill Gates' deforestation products aimed at carbon reduction. So I'll take a little look at old Billy Gators here and play his video clip talking about the deforestation.
Bill Gates and other investors are betting Kadama systems can reduce carbon dioxide in the air by chopping down and burying trees, which has raised $6.6 million in seed funding from Bill Gates' Breakthrough Energy and others. Scientists say burying trees can reduce global warming as well. I don't know where they're finding these scientists, by the way. To help address the problem, the U.S. Forest Services aims to thin out 70 million acres of western forests, mostly in California, over the next decade, extracting more than 1 billion tons of bone-dried biomass. Normally, when you cut down trees, when you're a lumberjack, when you have a lumber company, you're selling the lumber to build houses, people buying from Home Depot or whatever. They're arguing that they want to, rather than sell the timber, take all that wood and just bury it, because they're saying that that is a better solution. And so, in other words, this is a business because they're getting money to create carbon offsets. And this is what Bill Gates is financing.
Yeah, bury the trees. I mean, what good's that going to do? I guess you get money, you're offsetting carbon, you're doing something with carbon, but I mean, yeah, I mean, how in a homing and housing crisis is burying trees doing anything good for people? I mean, just ask yourself that. Why isn't Bill Gates building houses with those trees? If, all these benevolent world leaders, they supposedly care about the homeless. Do they? No, we could be building houses. We're just going to bury the trees, heck with it. But anyways, we'll continue down here. It says the carbon cycle. So the following text section is extracted from a National Geographic encyclopedia intended for children aged 10 to 13. Carbon is in constant state of movement from place to place. It's stored in what are known as reservoirs. It moves between these reservoirs through a variety of processes, including photosynthesis, burning fossil fuels, and simply releasing breath from the lungs. The movement of carbon from the reservoir to reservoir is known as the carbon cycle. Carbon can be stored in a variety of reservoirs, including plants and animals, which is why they are considered carbon life forms. Carbon is used by plants to build leaves and stems, which are then digested by animals and used for cellular growth. The atmosphere or in the atmosphere, carbon is stored in the form of gases, such as carbon dioxide. It's also stored in oceans, captured by many types of marine organisms. Some organisms, such as clam or coral, use the carbon to form shells and then skeletons. Most of the carbon on the planet is contained within rocks, minerals, and other sediment buried beneath the surface of the planet. Because Earth is a closed system, the amount of carbon on the planet never changes. The carbon cycle is vital to life on Earth. Nature tends to keep carbon levels balanced, meaning that the amount of carbon naturally released from reservoirs is equal to the amount that is naturally absorbed by reservoirs. Maintaining this carbon balance allows the planet to remain hospitable for life. But yeah, then we're on to elite environmental impact. I mean, just look at it. Good old John Kerry cruising around on his private jet. I mean, it's a government jet, but he's like one of the few people on it. Him, a pilot, maybe a couple servants, and pretty small operation to be flying around using that. But anyways, what does it have to say about this? The article points fingers. I'm going to say the article, it's talking about the Eco News Report article, solely at vehicles like, it's called the big blunt ends of stupid F-150s, implicating them in human fatalities and the climate crisis. However, it conveniently overlooks the excessive emissions from yachts, jets, and extravagant lifestyles from a few billionaires, far surpassing the annual energy emissions of millions of homes. Furthermore, the discussion ignores the environmental toll of mining rare metals pivotal to EV production and green energy initiatives. China's rare earth industry, essential for these ventures, wreaks havoc on the ecological environment, causing pollution, landslides, and river contamination. Yeah. But, if you go like Bill Gates and just gonna bury some trees to do a carbon offset for your massive, use of all your jets and yachts and all that, then it's all right. I got enough money to bury trees, so I'm not really hurting the environment, yo. But then there's also this little clip of an electric bus carrying children suddenly caught fire in Nimes, France. The impressive accident caused no casualties, which is lucky. The driver had the reflex to evacuate children before the vehicle caught fire. But here it is, still on the move, I guess. I mean, oh my goodness. Yep. Yeah. Where can you sign my kid up? Oh my God. That's horrible. But yeah, while scrutinizing larger gas-powered vehicles, the Eco News article fails to acknowledge safety risks posed by electric vehicles, notorious for spontaneous combustion leading to infernos that are challenging to control. The article discusses the proposed Daylight Saves Bill, AB 413, mandating that specific parking distances are observed from crosswalks for vehicles back from a corner. This is one thing that I actually agree with. I mean, it seems like a good idea, and I've had instances where I've trying to cross the street, trying to see around a vehicle parked close is difficult, and it might also be make it easier for vehicles trying to pull out too if people are parked a little bit further back from the corners. So I'm not against that. The article veers into discriminatory territory against a significant segment of the community. The Humboldt citizens relying on the vilified grow dozers within the cannabis industry. I mean, how else are you going to haul a bunch of stuff out into a rural living situation? And are you going to carry it on like a pack mule? Train of horses? Horse and buggy? I don't know. It's pretty ridiculous there. But yeah. And then we got the real crisis is man-made. A surprisingly dismissive tone is taken towards the housing crisis and homelessness. I mean, they acknowledge it, but they say it's all part of the climate crisis. But then they also go on to trivialize the tragic reality of people resorting to desperate measures, like jumping into traffic. And they kind of make light of that, which is, I don't know. I don't think it's funny. A phenomenon far from mere myth here in the streets of Eureka. I mean, you really got to watch where you're going because people will just do it. They'll just walk right out in front of you. But yeah. Yet the glaring omission persists, the absence of accountability for California's trajectory. Over the last 3 decades, with Democrats predominantly steering policies, including during Schwarzenegger's tenure, it's vital to question the real architects of our current state. Rather than succumbing to prophesized climate disasters, it's high time to hold those responsible for the policies accountable. It's about laying blame where it truly belongs, on the feet of those who have wielded power and shaped our state's destiny through their policies and agendas. Sacramento's green zeal and skewed narratives need to be scrutinized beyond the surface, uncovering the truth behind the environmental rhetoric. Yeah. But anyways, we'll move on and listen to a little bit of the Eco News report here. Let's see.
That are associated with that affordability crisis. We also have a pedestrian safety crisis. A lot of people are dying, preventable deaths, because of oversized automobiles, because of the way that we have designed our street infrastructure. It is at a crisis proportion, and we need to be treating it like a crisis. And then, of course, we also have the climate crisis. This probably needs less of an introduction to environmental listeners of the Eco News Report, but we are at 412 something parts per million of CO2 in our atmosphere. We need to be at 350 parts per million. We are on track for just wildly depressing, fatal, all of the above climate scenarios. Yeah, so we've got to make change, and we got to make change quickly. And thankfully, the California legislature is providing some leadership here. And so I'm going to be relying on my experts here in Matt and Colin to help break down what the heck is going on over in Sacramento. Friends, did I do a good job in outlining what we are up against?
Yeah, I think you did a good job. And I'll just say, we talked about these crises as separate just now, but they are obviously all interlinked and overlapping, right? And one of the things that I'm hoping we can do more in the future is talk about why these things benefit us in multiple ways. Yeah.
That's a really good point, right? Oversized automobiles are not only a threat to pedestrians and those big blunt ends on the stupid F-150s, not only a killer of humans, they're also a prime contributor to our climate crisis. We know in Humboldt County that regular cars and trucks that we all drive around, they are our number one source of greenhouse gas emissions according to the draft climate action plan. So having overly big, dumb cars and trucks that are a risk to pedestrians, that's also a risk to our.
Yep. There you have it from the source. Overly big, dumb cars. It's just. Yep. There it is from the source. Overly big, dumb cars. Pretty ridiculous there, huh? Pretty ridiculous. Yeah. Yep. Well, now. Anyways, we're gonna move on from that. If you want, go to the Lost Coast Outpost and check out the full article there on the Eco News Report. But yeah, it's going back to Gavin Newsom when he, was back in September 23rd, 2020. Governor Gavin Newsom announces California will phase out gasoline-powered cars and drastically reduce demand for fossil fuel in California. Fight against climate change. Ooh. Yeah, and this is a quote from Newsom on that action. This is the most important or impactful step our state can take to fight climate change, said Governor Newsom. For too many decades, we have allowed cars to pollute the air and our children and families that they breathe. Californians shouldn't have to worry if our cars are giving our kids asthma. Our cars shouldn't make wildfires worse and create more days filled with smoky air. Cars shouldn't melt glaciers and raise sea levels, threatening our cherished beaches and coastlines. But yeah, it's, pretty much vilifying the cars at the same time, not mentioning anything out. You think he drove an electric vehicle to China? He probably flew a private jet over there, pretty much on any of his engagements. I wonder how many trees he's burying to offset his carbon footprint. That'd be interesting to see. Yeah. But then another Lost Coast Outpost one, just a little glip of a Cybertruck has penetrated the Redwood Curtain. Ew. One of these fancy Tesla trucks that, quite frankly, I know quite a few people just think they're kind of ugly. I don't know if you have an opinion on it, anybody who watches this, but yeah, some people kind of don't like the way they look. Well, let's see what it says here. Ooh, there it is. RC, yay! And that's it. And they pretty much call it here. The dumb future is now. A Tesla Cybertruck is spotted tooling around the county in the last couple days. See above for the reader-submitted clip of the Cubist machine zooming its way towards Rio Del. Yay! Golf clap, everyone. The Cybertruck has arrived. Oh my goodness. But we've got another one. Here's a California DMV revokes Cruise's self-driving permit. I wonder why. It's one of those self-driving automobiles. But we'll check out this little clip here. We'll switch over to the full screen to take a look, take a little gander at it.
Hour before the DMV's decision came down, KTVU's Brooke Strauss explains the implications of the decision.
Consider it a timely foreshadowing. Teamsters gathered outside Cruise headquarters in San Francisco, calling for the self-driving car company to address safety concerns.
Actual people behind the wheel with a pulse and a brain that know how to maneuver in sticky situations. These cruise vehicles are dangerous on our streets.
And now the California Department of Motor Vehicles agrees, saying the autonomous vehicles are not safe for the public's operation and suspending Cruise's robo-taxi permits for driverless testing.
This is now really a vindication of San Francisco's position. It proves that these vehicles were not ready for prime time.
City leaders say they want to welcome the technology, but responsibly.
I also think it's important that we balance that with the appropriate.
Oh, buffering issues. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious me, oh mighty. Buffering issues. Well, we'll leave that video be there. And we will see what we got. I don't think they had anything written on this one. I'm pretty sure it was just a video. Just a video there, but we will see what's going on with the PG&E here. It says the PG&E moves forward with the Eel River dam removal. And what do they have to say here? I think a little section highlighted. It says, in a statement released after the plan's release, Huffman struck an optimistic tone to what it would mean if his constituents in both basins. PG&E's draft surrender application is a major step forward to achieving the two-basin solution. I've advocated for years, he said. The plan indicates full and expedited removal of the two dams that harm salmon on the Eel River, while allowing for a modern fish-friendly diversion to provide water to Mendocino, Sonoma, and Marin counties. I'll be working to ensure both elements are completed in a way that best protects communities, tribes, natural resources, and the Eel and Russian River watersheds. Craig Tucker, the consultant of the project for County of Humboldt, said, there is certainly a contingent in the environmental community inclined to say, to hell with the two-basin solutions, that we're going to remove all the stuff and keep all the water. Tucker said he wouldn't go that far, but noted the complexity of coming up with a viable plan to meet both basins' needs. Plus, he said he learned some things after decades of working for the removal of 4 dams in the lower Klamath River, which is all well and good. But personally, what I think is, putting the ban on the gas vehicles like we covered, and, moving all our little eggs into the offshore winds basket, like taking out all these dams, maybe that's a little bit abrupt, a little bit cart before the horse kind of scenario. Should we get rid of all the dams and rely on something that's untested and it might be a bureaucratic nightmare? I don't know. I just look at the high speed rail to nowhere. I don't know how many millions of billions of dollars went into that, but I think we got a little update on that later. I don't think it's really went maybe more than I know it hasn't spanned from one major city to another, but we'll see. But we got another little, and this is a semi-recent thing in Humboldt here. And we did a interview with Mayor Kim Burgell about this, because at first PETA came in kind of stomping their feet and whining, and they wanted to take down the old fisherman statue out on Woodley Island. But now they kind of changed their tune after it wasn't really in Kim's ability to approve or decline their thing. It's like something like the Harbor District or something like that. But they ended up getting this cute little patchwork quilt thingy to hang up in the city hall. Here's a little quote from the PETA people. It says, "Fish are intelligent, empathetic, and playful beings who deserve the same consideration and compassion as humans, dogs, and every other animal," says PETA President Ingrid Newkirk. PETA thanks Eureka for helping to pay tribute to the billions of aquatic animals killed each year in the fishing industry and tip the scales towards humane vegan meals. Which, there's a whole food chain out there, and other animals eat other animals. So, yeah, I don't know. To each their own is what I say, but yeah. Anyways, moving on to a Bill Gates story here. Bill Gates orders government to replace real food with genetically modified food to fight global boiling. The globe's gonna boil, huh? Uh-oh. Says, in an update in 2020, Han said the original group, ClimateWorks, was well on track to invest at least $6 billion by 2025. The huge investment was a thanks to a significant increases from several funders, as well as additional philanthropic donors committing new resources. And likely more, is all philanthropists are actively invited to allocate a portion of their portfolio to invest in tackling the corporate elite's climate crisis. Also listed as the funding partners of the Africa Climate Summit and USAID and UK Aid. Yeah. So yeah, I gotta use genetically modified meats to save the planet. So all this lab-grown meat. But I remember watching something on this. It's like the only cells that they can get to replicate fast enough for this lab-grown meat are like cancer cells from like these two extreme like patients. They're like these special cells that just like just replicate insanely fast, like normal. If you like clone normal, cells from normal meat, it takes just as long to grow and develop as like a normal animal would. But if you clone cancer cells and feed it to people, well, they grow as quick as the fastest growing cancer cell you can find. Anyway, so this is on to another clip of the Bill Gates funding the deforestation of 70 million acres to reduce global warming. Yes, got to bury those trees. I mean, to heck with the homeless people. We could be building houses for them. We're going to bury the trees. Who cares about the homeless? Yeah. In order to achieve this, they are funding the California startup Kodama Systems, who plan to cut down 70 million acres of forests, mostly in the western United States, over the next decade. After cutting down the trees, Kodama then plans to bury them, all in the name of reducing global warming, allegedly. Yeah. What a character. What a character there, guy. But yeah, we got another little video clip of old Billy Gators here, talking about pretty much the same thing as the other video clip. But we'll go ahead and reboot this thing.
Plant trees. There's a lot of people who are very enamored with trees. We've got trees on this stage. Some people would even say that if you just planted enough trees, it could take care of the climate issue altogether.
And that's complete nonsense.
Okay.
I mean, are we the science people or are we the idiots? Like, which one do we want to be?
He loves to giggle when he lies. Trees put out carbon dioxide and oxygen, mainly oxygen. They clean the atmosphere. They're amazing. You instinctively love them. You know they're good. Trees are bad. You got me, Bill Gates. But that's the reality. You tell the average person they're doing this, but remember, they're targeting children right now in school. I have articles here. They teach kids, you think trees are good? No, they're bad, and so is grass. But he cuts down and clear cuts everything and puts these huge solar farms everywhere where there's no life. But that's good. That's good. And, of course, it's extremely toxic, the mining process to get the stuff for solar panels. But it's okay.
Plant trees.
Yeah. But, I mean, yeah, so I just bury the trees when you could be using the trees to, even you could be, selling the trees to produce another, industry in our economy, bring back the logging days where you're actually selling lumber to build houses, maybe for the homeless, tons of jobs, building houses, milling trees, but nope, just bury them to offset your private jet. Brilliant there, yeah. Anyways, got a little article on environmental activism as a capitalist Trojan horse and the Bill Gates factor. Got a little snippet to read here. Actions dedicated to conservation and reforestation of the planet, ending plastic pollution, limiting climate change, and restorative agriculture are a few of the movements reflected in this giant engine of hope for all the masses on the globe. The indicative these days is supported by dozens of non-governmental organizations, including the Rockefeller-backed Club of Rome, so activism sanctioned by the major players worldwide. The problem one can run into, of course, is that what we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Rockefellers, the Gateses, and the other higher entities are not exactly on the same page as the rest of us are. Arguably, using this crisis, we are facing as an opportunity for some other objective, it seems. It is true that the simple corporations have jumped on the climate bandwagon. Each Earth Day, for example, Nestle has pledged to cut their CO2 emissions in half by 2030. Through the track record of the child labor, pollution, price fixing, and mislabeling, it is tempting to think such communities as old-fashioned greenwashing. But yeah, and it's see all these big corporations doing the hip virtue signal thing, like, oh yeah, we're doing it for the people, but really they're just burying trees to offset their carbon footprint to be able to, I don't know if any of you heard of the carbon credit scheme where, people are going to be charged for their carbon footprint. So if you can't afford to chop down, a bunch of forests and bury the trees, then you just got an extra tax to pay. But anyways, where does oil come from? Where does oil come from? Because it isn't dinosaurs. Let's see. Highlight a little thing here. I guess we just got a little video to watch. So we will just watch a little video here. We'll go to the full screen section and check that out.
Cars, buses, and planes. Is our electricity, and allows us to cook our food and heat our water. Most of today's energy needs are met with fossil fuels, like oil and gas. These unique, high-energy fuels are non-renewable resources that took millions of years to form. About 2 billion years ago, marine organisms like algae and microscopic animals and plants died and settled on the ocean floor. Beneath other sediments in the ocean, and in the absence of oxygen, these fossils changed into a substance called keratin. Under heat and pressure, keratin gradually changes into oil or gas. The whole process usually takes at least a million years. At the molecular level, oil and gas are hydrocarbons made up of hydrogen and carbon atoms. The constant pressure and movement of the Earth's crust squeezes oil and gas through the pores or spaces within rocks. Some oil and gas reaches the Earth's surface and seeps out naturally into land or water. Often it is trapped beneath the surface by impermeable layers or rock structures, like faults and folds. Within the crust, oil or gas deposits build up and form reservoirs. Reservoirs are like vast sponges filled with oil and gas. They can be as large as a city. To find gas deposits, geologists use a number of different survey techniques, including seismic surveys, gravitational surveys, and geological mapping. Seismic surveys use reflected sound waves to produce a 3D view of the Earth's interior. New technologies, such as four-dimensional projections and sophisticated graphic renderings of rock structures, are improving the way we find conventional oil and gas deposits. Energy resources that are currently difficult or expensive to extract are called unconventional oil and gas. In a world with limited energy resources, people are looking at more efficient ways of tapping into unconventional oil and gas, or at alternative and renewable sources of energy from biofuels or the sun. What do you think will be the energy sources of the future?
yeah, interesting stuff there. I mean, I don't know. I think it'll be a combination of everything. I mean, I think making some other biofuels might be a good idea. I know there's some different stuff you can make from hemp and whatnot, but yeah, there's all kinds of different stuff we can make. I don't think relying on any one thing is a good thing, just because, you know, good to have, what do they call that, redundancy or something like that. Anyways, Volkswagen is pausing EV production at its German plant again due to lack of EV or e-motors. Let's see. Although electric car deliveries rose 45% in the first 9 months of the year, the company's CFO, Arno Anzilis, said EV orders in Europe were down by 150,000. That's 50% fewer than last year's total of 300,000. VW's EV sales have reached 9% in the third quarter, putting it back on track to hit its goal of 8 to 10% in 2023. And there's Electric's take. Although many headlines are pushing slowing EV demand due to automakers like Volkswagen, Ford, and GM delaying production of the EV targets, that's not exactly the case. Higher interest rates, combined with Tesla's drastic price cuts this year, are making it tough for competitors to keep up. So I guess it's a myriad of things, and like if it's anything like the title of the article says, that like a lack of e-motors, and it might just be, you know, an actual part shortage that's like, hey, we got to slow this down because we're kind of, you know, running low on some parts here. But anyways, we got another thing here to talk about. Buyers worldwide go for bigger cars, erasing gains from cleaner tech. And this is back from the original article in the beginning. And it says, people don't want to be limited in their space in their cars, said Eric Free Hesse. Yeah, murdered that one, sorry. President of the Tamaroff Group of dealerships in Southwest Michigan. Everyone wants a 7-passenger. Large SUVs such as the Chevy Tahoe, Toyota Sequoia, and Nissan Armada have highway gas mileages of 28, 24, and 19 respectively. But even the most efficient SUVs will be less efficient than sedans because SUVs weigh much more. A sign of progress, however, is that the compact SUVs such as the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V at 35 and 34 highway miles per gallon, respectively, are now leading the U.S. SUV market, accounting for about 18% of new vehicles last year. Yeah, and that's probably due to the, you know, ridiculously high gas prices we're seeing under the Biden inflation. I mean, yeah, I know that, yeah, we have like a Nissan Titan, like aside from a Nissan Rogue, and any chance we can, we drive the Rogue instead of the Titan because it is not cheap to fill that and drive that places. But we've got another little Facebook video clip here talking about another kind of media battle against trucks, you know, trucks of any nature, you know, and related to the environment. So we will reload, or maybe we can just play.
Aren't allowed to show them going off-road in their commercials because the environment. I honestly thought this was a joke when I started seeing these headlines today, but it's not. The UK's Advertising Standards Agency banned a Toyota Helix commercial, the one that I have playing now on the screen, because it, quote, condones behavior that was harmful to the environment, end quote. Now, Toyota, of course, responded saying that everything in the commercial was filmed in Slovenia on private property with the permission of the property owner, and that they believed that no reasonable viewer would have watched the ad thinking it encouraged them to drive irresponsibly in the UK countryside and cause environmental harm. I mean, just imagine thinking so little of your citizens' intelligence levels that you'd think if they see this commercial that they're going to jump into their trucks, find the nearest stream, and, you know, drive through it with 20 of their closest friends because, yeah, that's happens.
Yeah, I mean, people are getting dumber as the phones are getting smarter, it seems, but I don't think we're to that point yet. And that's, yeah, I know when I see a truck doing the commercial drive where it's, you know, driving on some plateau of some, you know, mountain that it doesn't even appear like a viable way to get up there in the first place. They probably had to like drop it in on a helicopter. I don't think like, hey, I need to take my truck out there and do that, yesterday or tomorrow, whatever. But no. Anyways, after fire kills 3, NYC officials say retailers, delivery apps must do more to ensure e-bike safety. So just like the bus we saw on fire earlier, yeah, it's the same problem you can have in the electric bikes. And that was, I'm going back, that's another thing I neglected to put in the article up at the beginning on the Eco News Report, but that's one thing they're talking about, a new policy in California where renters, or like I guess landlords, will be required to allow storage of bikes, in the apartments that they're renting or the houses they're renting. But what about if it's an e-bike that could possibly spontaneously combust? Are landlords still required to allow that on their property if it's a fire hazard? I don't know. I mean, I can see if it's a regular bike, but I don't know if it was a place I was renting, if I'd want one of those, just, waiting to burn the whole place to the ground. Not really quite sure about that. But anyways, we've also got offshore wind project face economic storm. Cancellations jeopardize Biden's green energy goals. Oh, boo-hoo. The cancellation of 2 large offshore wind projects in New Jersey is the latest in a series of setbacks in the nascent U.S. offshore wind industry, jeopardizing the Biden administration's goals of powering 10 million homes from towering ocean-based turbines by 2030 and establishing a carbon-free electric grid 5 years later. But I mean, how much carbon goes into making the turbines themselves? Are they not like, how many components are carbon fiber? I don't know. Pretty ridiculous. But anyways, the Danish wind energy developer Ørsted said this week that it's scraping its ocean wind 1 and 2 projects of southern New Jersey due to problems with supply chains, higher interest rates, and a failure to obtain the amount of tax credits the company wanted. Together, the projects were supposed to deliver around 2.2 gigawatts of power. The news comes after developers in the New England canceled power contracts for 3 projects that would have provided another 3.2 gigawatts of wind power to Massachusetts and Connecticut. They said their projects were no longer financially feasible. But it's just not feasible because of a number of things, but that kind of all goes down, back to the whole Bidenomics thing. It sounds like a whole myriad of things that kind of, go back just to the state of the country right now where it's not feasible. So he's got this plan to move everything electric, but, the economy that he's producing to, that these projects are having to be carried out in, it's just not really a nurturing environment for these kind of projects or any kind of like financial stability. I don't know. But then we also have another thing on EV charging stations. Why this I don't know if that's a misspell or something, but UTE, whatever that's supposed to mean. Why this ute in a multi-story park has drivers fuming they could be slapped with a nasty fine before Christmas. It says, a fed-up Aussie shared a photo of a Volkswagen Amarok to Reddit with the caption, Ute parked in one of the 5 EV charging slots. So maybe that's just a term for like an asshole or something. I don't know. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Australian. Do you call people assholes? Just call them utes? I don't know. But it says, in November of 2022, the New South Wales government introduced a new law which sees drivers fined up to $2,200 for illegally parking an electric vehicle in a charging spot. The fine applies to drivers who leave petrol or diesel vehicles in spaces designated for electric cars, known as icing. It's reference to internal combustion engine cars. The fine also applies to parking an electric vehicle in a charging station but not charging it. Other states have also introduced fines for the act. The drivers in the act potentially fined up to $3,200, while in the Queensland could be up to $28.75. Yes. But anyways, what do we got next? We got another little Facebook clip talking about EV battery making. So we'll see what he's saying here.
In Michigan and across the country. So the state of Michigan gave this electric vehicle battery maker company $189 million of your taxpayer money. So take a look at this. This is what's happening in Michigan and across the country. So the state of Michigan gave this electric vehicle battery maker company $189 million of your tax.
Yeah, and then they lay off employees. Like, hey, we got all this federal money. Now we've got to, we just don't need it anymore. So, yep. Anyways, on to the next one. Light pollution. Ooh. Because the Milky Way is so easily seen in the old days, every ancient civilization that we know of invented stories from what they saw. River of Light. Aramaic. Snake of the Skies. Akkadian. The Shadow Path. Bengali. Grey Goose Way. The Chuvash. The Deer's Leap. Georgian. The Straw Thief. Kurdish. The Fair Cow's Path. Irish. Silver River. Vietnamese. And so on and on. The point is that these people knew it well enough to give it a name and make up stories about it. I have to wonder how Cherokee people came up with the way the dog ran away. That's an interest. If we humans have lost something by not being able to see the Milky Way, pity the many species whom we share with the planet who are suffering, some to the point of extinction because of light pollution. Yeah, that is tragic there. Yep. That's why it's kind of nice for some of these people, enjoy living rurally. We don't all need to live in cities, because if we spread out a little bit, then we're not going to experience as much light pollution. They're not, yeah. Yep, some people like to live rurally just because, I know for me anyways, cities can kind of drive you a little bit nuts, drive you a little bit crazy anyways, and that's what they do to me. But now we've got something's kind of interesting. It's a Michigan Township Green Charter votes out its entire local government over China-linked EV battery maker. Goshen's plan to build a factory there. And let me see. It says, on Wednesday, News Nation's Enton reported live from the town's empty government building after the incumbents hastily packed their belongings. This is something Americans all across the country almost fantasize about, booting out their local government if they don't like them and the fact they're not getting the job done. He told the host Elizabeth Vargas, and Elizabeth Vargas reports. In ousting the Green Charter's town board, voters in the community also sent a message to President Joe Biden, who has touted EV plants and other clean energy projects as a key to economic growth plans. China is a leader in the global supply chain for advanced batteries and other green technology, raising thorny questions about what kind of impact partners in that area or arena will have in U.S. interests. Goshen's plan for the Michigan plant and another in Illinois have drawn scrutiny from the congressional Republicans, who urged that the Treasury Department to conduct a security review over Goshen's purported ties to the Chinese Communist Party. Public filings indicated that Goshen, headquartered in Fremont, California, is wholly owned by a subsidiary of the Goshen High Tech Co., Ltd., a multinational based out of Hefei, China. Goshen High-Tech's Articles of Association, last updated in 2022, state that the company shall maintain a Chinese Communist Party unit tasked with the implementation of the party's guidelines, principles, and policies of the company. The company has publicly denied allegiance to the Communist Party, but China has moved in recent years to enhance the CCP's influence in Chinese firms, where maintaining a party unit is often required under law. So yeah, I wonder how many of these other little, green energy corporations have ties to the Communist Party in China. It might be surprising. It really might. But yeah, we're gonna, this is COP26. What the climate impact, what is it for private jets? How many private jets have come to Glasgow? I got a little part highlighted. It says, we're to consider the journey from Rome to Glasgow on a private jet, the journey that some of the G20 leaders made to get to the COP26. That would take around 2 hours and 45 minutes, requiring 2,356 liters of jet fuel. The Department of Business, Energy, and Industrial Strategy, BEIS, says that 2.52 kilograms of carbon dioxide is emitted every liter of activation turbine fuel burned. Therefore, this flight would produce 5.9 tons of CO2. However, BEIS recommends that to capture the maximum climate impact of flights, CO2 emission figures should be multiplied by 1.9 to reflect the effect of non-CO2 emissions released by the plane's high altitude, which scientists say increase the warming effect. Therefore, the total emissions of this flight would be 11.3 tons of CO2 equivalent. And with a capacity of 9, each passenger would be responsible for 1.2 tons of their journey. If, however, our world leaders had decided to take a commercial flight from Rome to Glasgow, their emissions have been a quarter of a ton each. Even though a commercial flight uses more fuel per hour, it's able to fly far more passengers than a private jet and therefore produces fewer emissions per person. So yeah, if you're just doing your own solo thing, got your private jet, it's just you're using a lot of fuel for just, one person and maybe your few manslaves or whatever that are flying along with you. But then this one says 12 billionaires' climate emissions outpollute 2.1 million homes, analysis finds. Yeah. 12 of the world's wealthiest billionaires produce more greenhouse gas emissions from their yachts, private jets, mansions, and financial investments than the annual energy emissions of 2 million homes. Research shared exclusively with The Guardian reveals. But yeah, it's all right because they can offset their carbon footprint. They just cut down a bunch of trees and bury them, and that fixes the environment somehow. That's science. I mean, what are we? Are we the scientists? Or are we the idiots? Jesus. Anyways, which form of transport has the smallest carbon footprint? So there's domestic flight, long haul flight, diesel car, petrol car. So this carbon footprint travel measures the grams of carbon dioxide equivalent to per passenger kilometer. This includes the impact increased by warming from aviation emissions at altitude. Okay. So that's what they're talking about. So that was up over 2,000 for the private jet. And then I think it ended up being over 10,000 with everything included with all the other emissions in there. And then for a single person on a domestic flight, it's like 246 grams. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous there. We got another little video clip here. Let's see. See what this one says here.
created around COVID. Do I have this wrong?
No, you have it correct. I mean, first of all, we have to accept the World Economic Forum is a fanatical political organization that uses fear and manipulation like COVID hysteria, like the hoax of global warming, to really facilitate people thinking that somehow they're the saviors, but really all you're doing is helping them accomplish their goal, which really is a global public-private fascist movement and fusion of big government, big tech, big money to create a technocratic ruling elite, which conveniently is them. And really, Laura, if you want to look at it a different way too, with the World Economic Forum, they want to create feudalism 2.0, in which we are serfs and they are the lords ruling over us. You'll have nothing and be happy is one of the things that comes out of Davos. That's what they're aiming for. They're aiming for feudalism in which we are serfs and we should be happy that they are ruling over us.
Panic about climate change.
Yeah, that pretty much seems to be it, though, because, I get all of us who can't afford to chop down, hundreds of acres of trees and bury them to offset our carbon footprint. And yeah, I mean, it's if you're not someone who can do that and fly around in your private jet, you're living a drastically different lifestyle. That's for sure. If you're trapped in one of these new 15-minute cities they're planning, and you got only your electric vehicle, we're like, oh, sorry, you're not permitted to travel to the next zone. It's not going to happen, buddy. But then we got another one here talking about rare earth mining may be the key to our renewable energy future, but at what cost? Segment highlighted here. The country's rare earth industry was causing severe damage to the ecological environment, China State Council wrote in 2010. The release of heavy metals and other pollutants during the mining led to the destruction of the vegetation and pollution of surface water, groundwater, and farmland. The excessive rare earth mining, the council wrote, led to landslides and clogged rivers. But yes, we need these rare earth minerals to make these electric cars and the solar panels. I mean, and who knows if they go into windmills too? They might, Yeah. Yep. It's just a total necessity. We got to have those things no matter how much it pollutes. And that's, that's not part of the problem. That's the solution to the problem. Got to pollute to get the carbon down. Who cares about all the other pollution? Just get that carbon down. The present atmospheric concentration of CO2 is the highest in 14 million years, says Wikipedia. Concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere were as high as 4,000 parts per million in the Cambrian period, and that's about 500 million years ago, and as low as 180 parts per million during the Quaternary glaciation of the last 2 million years. Reconstructed temperature records of the last 420 million years indicate that the atmospheric CO2 concentrations peaked at approximately 2,000 ppm during the Devonian 400 MA period, and again in the Triassic 220 to 200 MA period, which is 4 times the current levels during the Jurassic period 201 to 145 MA. But yeah, it seems the world survived since that. So what does it really mean to get our carbon down from 412 ppm to 350? I think it's a little under 350, then there's not enough enough CO2 in the atmosphere to support plant life. So is that what the goal is? I mean, we're saying trees are evil and burying trees. Maybe these elite people just don't want plant life around. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, let's see here. This is a little clip from Hawaii here. We'll play that in a minute. We're going to go in and kind of discuss, just rehash pretty much all the nonsense that we talked about in this segment so far. So we'll go into the discussion mode here. And yeah, so looking back over this here, We started out with our Eco News report where they're vilifying vehicles. And, we went back over the Governor Newsom, who had, went to ban vehicles. So this is all, this is the Eco News report was an example of local propaganda moving to, ban these other vehicles here. And we've seen that, the Cybertruck, we've seen one in Humboldt. So, the electric vehicles, they are making sales and all. And we also saw that, PETA tried to make a move, tried to get a statue of a fisherman torn down in a, historical fishing community, which, I guess it kind of coincides with a lot of other statues we see getting taken down. But yeah, all pretty disturbing there. And I think the main thing we're going to look back at is the where does carbon, what does it do? It's a cycle. It's like carbon is a constant, and it's a constant state of movement from place to place. It's stored in what are known as reservoirs, and it moves between those reservoirs through a variety of processes. Carbon can be stored in a variety of things, rocks, plants, animals, which are considered carbon life forms. Carbon is used by plants to build out leaves and stems. And it's digested by animals like us and used for cellular growth. So, and to lower your carbon footprint, what was being said by the National Geographic Encyclopedia was saying that the carbon on the planet is constant. We're not gonna. No one's lowering a carbon footprint. Just because you cut down some trees and bury them doesn't mean there's less carbon on the planet. You're not lowering anything. You're just doing a pointless virtue signal that is actually, hurting the atmosphere in the planet because those trees aren't alive to clean the air and, produce oxygen for living things or, for animals anyways. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and watch the James O'Keefe clip from Lahaina, because that was some other stuff that's kind of suspicious on how they're treating all the victims of the fire over there. They're not really being nice about it. It's kind of shisty. But we'll go into the full screen and check out this OMG media clip here, because it's pretty interesting stuff.
I'm standing here in front of the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resources. I just said you, asking some questions. Makes me nervous by you. Did you say fuck you to him? I did. And then another official said she's going to call the police.
Appreciate you turn that off.
You're going to call the police?
Turn it off.
I've been arrested in Chase, so I'm a little bit on it. But emergency proclamation is a soft term for martial law. And they're saying we can't take pictures or video from the highway. Oh, they'll arrest you if you don't get out of there, and they'll retaliate. My boat on fire in the harbor.
That's your boat on fire? Someone lit your boat on fire, basically.
Yeah. If I had hidden cameras, he would have full on hit me.
There may be a way for me to help you with the hidden camera thing.
You have a soft. I'm going to remove myself from being upset.
Okay.
Before worse things happen.
If I give you some equipment, you think you'd do it there tomorrow?
Oh, yeah.
The undercover cameras you've seen us use in the past, both in these videos and in our masterclasses, are now available for sale. Go to our website, o'keefemediagroup.com, click on Covert Camera Store, and you can buy the button camera. Buy it, go get the footage, send it to us, and we'll pay you for it. Now enjoy O'Keefe Undercover in Lahaina, Part 2. After we released Part 1 of our undercover investigation in Lahaina, showing how the emergency proclamation declared by the governor of Hawaii prohibited photography and journalism alongside the burn zone, which resulted in a lawsuit between OMG and the governor of Hawaii, we received tips and messages from hundreds of locals in Hawaii looking for us to tell their stories about how this crisis is playing out on a variety of levels. This included a lack of ability to get resources from the federal government locally, locals unable to get inside the burn zone, and a potential land grab by the state. We'll be following up in a series of video reports on Lahaina in the coming weeks. Today, we continue to report on the First Amendment and tensions that are deep-rooted in Hawaii as we track one man's interaction with local officials at the Department of Land and Natural Resources and how the state itself is struggling with the deep and long-standing issues regarding the Kingdom of Hawaii being under U.S. control. While our reporters were speaking with members of the Red Cross and FEMA, we came across...
Yeah, but it's really just tragic seeing what has happened over in Hawaii there. And it's a good thing that, beyond his former news group, the Project Veritas, that James O'Keefe has went on to, do some really good journalism here. So definitely go over to OMG, his new news site, and check out that full video there. We're going to switch over to something from kind of non-related to this subject, but thought we'd throw it in there anyways. It's a little live clip from our other news member, Donnie Creekmore, news team member. But he is over in Vegas right now, and he was doing some interviews with just, I guess he called it taxi cab confessions. So we'll go ahead and check out what some random taxi driver has to say about whatever they're talking about here.
All right, I got one for you. Ready? Trump or Biden? Go. Trump. Yeah, okay.
Right.
All right, Trump. Why Trump?
Because I just don't care for Biden. I don't care for the country, the state that it's in. So really not for both of them. I mean, things were much better for me personally under Trump. I mean, I'm not I don't love the guy. He's an arrogant, jerk. But that doesn't mean that they can't run the country. I mean, that doesn't mean he's not a good businessman. So
One could say that it takes an arrogant jerk to run a country.
And a really good business.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'm just not for the politicians. Everything is just such a mess.
Yeah.
And for me personally, I mean, it's just a mess for me.
Right. I think we all would rather have somebody who's like a little bit, bold and clearly not filtered. Clearly, no filter. Than like somebody who is 100% filtered and all they do is lie.
Yeah, see, that's the main thing. Yeah, and it's not just but I didn't do well under Obama either.
Right.
And so for me, I feel like Obama's still in charge and all that. Leave it to the hype. So yeah, I mean,
Do you think it's Obama or Big Mike?
She knows Big Mike.
You know Big Mike? You know Big Mike?
She knows what we're talking about. They don't call him Small Mike.
Yeah.
She's beast mode.
I think it's more than just them. I mean, there's a lot of them that are all in control. And I don't understand why we can't just go in and just throw them all out of office. Just throw them all out and be done. And I mean, we have 300 million people in this country that are legal. That I mean, they can't. This is all that we have to pick from. I mean,
right?
It's true. It's true.
But he could. I think he could make his place somewhere into what do they call that? Cabinet? What do they call that?
Attorney General or.
I mean, he definitely has a place somewhere, in there. But I like him. I don't have.
He hasn't pissed anybody off for any reason.
Right. Not yet. No. I mean, that's the thing is that, you never know.
Okay, I've got one. What do you think about the open borders?
I hate them. It's really bad here in Vegas.
Right.
And, we're Democrats. We will always be a Democrat because they have control over it. And, they go out and until they do away with the mail-in ballots. I mean, you just have to. You cannot have mail-in. I don't care. I don't know about the rest of the country, but here, at least in Las Vegas and Clark County, you have to stop the mail-in ballots. You cannot. People have got to walk their lazy butts in there and vote, whether a paper ballot or whatever. People need to. I mean, it's too busy of a city for people to say, "Oh, I don't have time." You absolutely have time.
Right.
Go and stand. And we have enough places, big enough places, that people, they should shut the, town down for the, 12 hours of voting. I mean, but the Democrats have control over the homelessness.
Yep.
So, a homeless person or anybody, basically a homeless person can sit here onto this corner for 5 days, and that is considered their residence, and they can give, and so the volunteers, use that word lightly, hit up, they keep in contact with all of the homeless. So they'll find people there, they'll say, okay, you come back here and you meet me here in a couple of days, and I'll bring you, whatever, I'll bring you drugs, I'll bring you alcohol, I'll bring you whatever you want. And in exchange for their ballot.
Just a quid pro quo for ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then I think I know the answer. What do you think about the 2020 election?
Oh, here in Vegas it was rigged, 100%. Right, and I'm not sure if you even call it rigged, but like I said, they used, they used the homelessness, and for people to not realize that and understand that, it's, but I think people have woken up here in Vegas. They have woken up to that, and it's tough here, but it's not like. All right, I'm gonna sit here and try to figure out where.
Oh, you're fine.
Right here is where we're gonna go for the.
Oh, the loop.
The loop, yeah. I don't know if this is where you. Let's just drop you off here.
Okay.
Go up to the doors.
This is Donnie Creekmore with Lost Coast Populist News, and you just heard a taxi cab confession from somebody unsolicited. We just got in and we're going to ask some questions, and we're going to keep doing that. And so that's number one for my trip out in Vegas. I'll have another one to you guys here as soon as we get back into another taxi, and we'll just keep asking people about what's going on out here in Vegas and get some kind of eyes and ears on the ground. So thanks for tuning in. Have a good day. Cheers.
Well, there we have it from Donnie. And thanks for talking to people on the street, Donnie. But we're gonna throw in the towel for this episode of Reading Between the Headlines, and we will talk to y'all later. So have a nice evening, or whatever it is you might be watching this little episode here. Thanks for tuning in. Adios. crosswalks for vehicles back from a corner. This is one thing that I actually agree with. I mean, it seems like a good idea. And I've had instances where I've trying to cross the street, trying to see around a vehicle parked close is difficult. And it might also be, make it easier for vehicles trying to pull out too if people are parked a little bit further back from the corner. So I'm not against that. The article veers into discriminatory territory against a significant segment of the community. The humble citizens relying on the vilified grow dozers within the cannabis industry. I mean, how else are you going to haul a bunch of stuff out into a rural living situation? Are you going to carry it on like a pack mule? Train of horses? A horse and buggy? I don't know. It's pretty ridiculous there. But yeah. And then we got the real crisis is man-made. A surprisingly dismissive tone is taken towards the housing crisis and homelessness. I mean, they acknowledge it, but they say it's all part of the climate crisis. And they also go on to trivialize the tragic reality of people resorting to desperate measures, like jumping into traffic. And they kind of make light of that, which is, I don't think it's funny. A phenomenon far from mere myth here in the streets of Eureka. I mean, you really got to watch where you're going, because people will just do it. They'll just walk right out in front of you. Yeah. Yet the glaring omission persists, the absence of accountability for California's trajectory. Over the last 3 decades, with Democrats predominantly steering policies, including during Schwarzenegger's tenure, it's vital to question the real architects of our current state. Rather than succumbing to prophesized climate disasters, high time to hold these, those responsible for the policies accountable. It's about laying blame where it truly belongs, in the feet of those who wielded power and shaped our state's destiny through their policies and agendas. Sacramento's green zeal and skewed narratives need to be scrutinized beyond the surface.